Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Club Rats. We wanted to do a trade recap for the NBA and what our thoughts on how it would affect the rest of the season and future seasons. My name is John.
I'm Jesiah
Billy.
in London.
Obviously, some of the biggest trades, maybe of all time, Luca going to the Lakers for AD. Um, that's going to be one of the most talked about trades ever. It'll be one of those. Did it change the course of history on who wins this ring, who could have won this ring? You'll have these type of stories forever. Obviously, a couple other trades that were pretty big, but nobody really talked about was Darian Fox going to the Spurs. I think that's a great pairing with Wimby. Two guys that can kind of grow together. They should fit together perfectly. One being a big, one being a guard. And obviously, I don't know what's going on with Popovich, but if he could get his health back, him being there to guide that, I could see where the Spurs could potentially have a championship type team.
To piggyback on what you said, I think it's a great pairing. I like Devin Vassell too, Stephon Castle on the bench. The one question mark for me is what's going to happen with Keldon Johnson. He's kind of the odd man out right now. Sochan's been riding the bench a little bit too. This year, essentially up in the air. It is what it is. But for the years to come, Wemby is going to keep improving. De'Aaron Fox, and they could grow together. People like to knock De'Aaron Fox on shooting. I think Wemby's so good at shooting that it might masquerade that to a certain extent. But he hits it at a decent clip already. He's won in the past Clutch Player of the Year. I think they have a great pairing from a defense aspect to an offense aspect as well. I love that. Another trade I want to highlight, which we talked about off camera, was DeAndre Hunter to the Cavaliers. That trade is not getting talked about at all.
That's a huge pickup.
Billy and I are Celtics fans. Billy, I want to ask you, as a Celtics fan, that's essentially why they needed a big wing. They have small guards. I want you to, kind of talk about what they're looking for with DeAndre Hunter and how they could shape up against the Celtics.
Yeah, that trade is basically for the Celtics. They want somebody to try to guard Tatum, but it's just the wrong guy. Tatum's had so much success against Hunter whenever we played Atlanta. We even had a playoff series against Atlanta in the recent history, and Tatum just absolutely lit him up. Honestly, I was more scared of Levert. Levert has scored over 50 points against the Celtics before.
Karras.
So he's just one of those players that is never hot against any other team but the Celtics.
He's kind of like the Caleb Martin of the Cavaliers.
Yeah, or well, actually, even the Dean Wade is that too, because he does that to the Celtics too. It's just for whatever reason they'd have these guys
Dean Wade
that would come off the bench and they would just kill the Celtics.
Shaq was great. He's like, they don't need Dwayne Wade anymore. They got Dean Wade.
And it's always against Boston. I do think it's a good move because they did need to upgrade their wing, especially somebody that can actually score from the wing, because Okoro is not a good offensive player
at all. They were literally leaving him open like he's Jared
What is?
Allen.
I'm not super familiar with Hunter. What is his? What? So he's going to help him with length,
He's a
athleticism.
utility guy.
He's
He
a
literally
6'8",
does
6'9".
everything.
Got it.
He's
3 and D.
So yeah, they need that.
3 and
Is
D
he
in
tough?
theory. In college, he was projected to be more of a defensive player in the NBA. He hasn't been projected to be that yet. He hasn't done it thus far. But what he's a good shooter. He's could score off the dribble, so he could create his own shot. 1-2 dribble, mid-range pull up. He could get to the rim. Again, he's 6'8", 6'9". He has long wingspan. He's not a guy that's going to get you steals or blocks, but he can stay in front of the guy. The Celtics, in that aspect, they run a lot of actions from a pick and roll, whether it's the guard saying a screen for Tatum, or even if it's a big saying a screen for Tatum. I don't think DeAndre Hunter could stay with Tatum in the half-court game running the Celtics.
Who guards Tatum right now?
On the Cavaliers?
Yeah.
Well, it was
like
Strus.
Okoro.
It was like Strus. Okoro didn't really play. He's been in and out of the lineup from injuries to falling out of rotations because they kind of have a logjam at small forward because they all offer something, but they don't offer everything altogether. Like Strus is the shooting. He has defense. He's 6'4", right? That's the problem. But London, somebody that's on the outside of that, what do you think that does for the Cavaliers moving forward?
I think it's a huge upgrade for them. I'm really big on DeAndre Hunter. Being a Carolina guy, I watched him play at Virginia. He's a utility guy. Grabs rebounds. He does just about everything. He's not going to be a go-to scorer for you, but Cavs don't need him for that. He grabs rebounds. He's a tall wing that plays a great 3-4 position. He's a very tall 3, but they don't need him to play the 4 or anything like that. I think he's going to fit in very well with the Cavs. I think it is a very underrated.
It's something they've been wanting to get for a while. They've been wanting this utility wing that can
Yes.
score a little bit, but mostly for defensive purposes for how small their backcourt is, right?
Yes, he can. I wouldn't say he's a crazy 3-point shooter. He's a good catch and shoot. He's not gonna go crazy on the wing and then pull up for 3 in your face. He's not that type of player, but he's a long defensive player who can score the ball, and I think it is a huge pickup for the Cavs, and I don't really understand why it's not getting talked about more, honestly.
Yeah. John, somebody also on the outside looking in at
the last time
that trade that you want to talk about.
The last time the Cavs had a wing was LeBron.
Yeah.
So they're still looking for LeBron. He's in LA. If that's what he can do, obviously he's not going to be LeBron at that position, but if he gives them that length, because Boston is a very long team, I think you got to get in them a little bit, get physical with them, force them off the line. What?
Pause.
It's
all good.
If he can do that, I think that would be. I don't think they'll beat Boston still, but if they're going to do it, you need a piece like this.
No, but it's an upgrade from where
exactly.
It's definitely an upgrade to their roster.
I want to ask you, London. What did you think? I want to ask you, who do you think won the Mavs Lakers trade, and then after that, what was your other trade or NBA related topic you want to talk about?
Are we talking win the trade this year or win the trade?
Who do you think
3 years?
Just wins it overall?
I mean, I honestly think it's a good trade for both teams. The Lakers, they know that LeBron's career is coming to an end. AD's getting up in age. I don't know how much he's going to be able to carry a franchise.
Does he want to carry the franchise?
Does he want to carry a franchise? Luka's young. Who are they going to pass the torch to after LeBron retires?
Yeah, I get it from the Lakers standpoint.
Luka is a huge brand name. Now, what I will say is, for the Mavs, obviously the organization had their feelings on Luka, and his conditioning, his weight, and kind of his commitment to getting better in that area. And kind of from what we've seen, they kind of gave him chances, or they hinted toward him like, do something about this shit. And I'm not going to say he deserved to get traded, but he didn't listen. And
I heard he brought in his own team to help with weight, and
yeah,
the Mavericks took slight to that.
Which I'm not upset at that. You're comfortable with.
Yeah.
You're comfortable with. You know what I mean? And if you're comfortable with somebody else telling you what to do, as long as the results get done, it doesn't really matter. But if the results aren't getting there, and obviously they weren't. There was reports that Luka was up to 270. Luka's already not in shape. 270's
at 25.
At 25, I mean,
can't handle that weight. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Mavs said, we value defense, which we know Luka gives you no defense whatsoever. Like, he hurts you on what other superstar do you really see where the other team
picks on him time and time again?
Just every play, just come up and get.
He's not an NBA defensive player.
I don't even know if he's a college defensive
he's
player.
He's not an NBA defensive player because he's not an insane athlete, and he has horrible effort and body language on defense too. So it's he doesn't. It's one thing if you're lazy on defense. Even if he tried hard, he could be maybe okay on defense.
He doesn't even look like
he doesn't even try hard.
He doesn't try.
He doesn't look like he tries. And I think that's what bothered the organization more than anything is it doesn't look like you care.
Yeah.
Whether how good you
are.
are.
They're in the finals, and he still doesn't care, right?
They picked on him every possession, and it looked like he didn't care.
Do you think the Mavericks could have won the championship at any time in the future with Luka? I also ask you guys that as
Billy,
well.
You go. You haven't had one. Go.
Absolutely. They made the finals with a pretty crappy team, and all of his flaws, they're apparent. Nobody's going to deny any of those. He's still one of the 3 or 4 best players in the world. So all you would need him to do is to be like Shaq or Barkley, be in shape for 1 year, and you're going to win an MVP.
And I agree with you, Bill, because they that Mavs team that made the finals last year, they're like, oh, they made the finals. It was an achievement. That first half of the year, it was like, this isn't working at all.
It was rough until they made the trades
they put it together,
players.
But I will get Luka is that type of guy. If you get him into the tournament, it's not an automatic. You just beat him. He gives you a shot. So from that standpoint, I do think Dallas lost out on that.
What about you? Could the Mavericks have won, in your opinion, within these next handful of years with Luka?
Yes, I'm not going to say they couldn't. I think with the emergence of PJ Washington this year, that helps them out greatly. Um, but I kind of like what Dallas did, to be honest with you.
I agree actually.
I mean,
with you
you
on that
put
take.
I think for the short term, you can argue that.
that's what I mean. Like you put,
Short term, yes.
At least
but
2
you know what?
years.
Dallas is looking to win now.
I will say this though, if you're, I mean, you watch Anthony Davis plays a great game, and he gets hurt in the game. It
His
was
first
it's
game
literally
in.
a microcosm of his career.
Yes.
Like he's got everything. He's making shots. He looks like the best player in the world.
His stat line didn't tell the whole story. I was watching that game. He ended up having 26, 7, and 16, I believe. But I'm telling you, the impact.
No, but he was
so
a
much
force.
More.
Like
it
you
was
could just say
insane.
they weren't going to stop him.
And he got hurt halfway
Yeah,
through the third
yeah.
quarter.
In the third.
I'm not making fun of him. I'm just saying he just he can. Everything looks perfect
with health,
and
and
then
that's
he gets
with
hurt, man.
a lot of NBA teams. But with health, I actually like the Mavericks coming out of the West. And we can talk about that later on. But as much as people are shitting on the Mavericks for this trade, and it is a bad trade because 5-10 years in the future, Luka's still going to be Luka. Anthony Davis is going to be retired in 5 years. He's already 31.
Yeah.
So down the road, it's a bad trade. But for a win now situation,
But what about this though, Jesiah?
I like the Mavericks trade.
If Luka only makes it because he's 25, everybody's just assuming he's going to make it to 35. If he doesn't take care of his body, we've seen this happen to guys in the NBA where they eat themselves out of the league or they just don't turn into anything. He could be done at 30.
But we've also seen Jokic. So that's my counter argument to that, and that's going to be it every time. Jokic comes to the game's out of shape. He also doesn't play defense.
Is Jokic out of shape though?
Yes, absolutely.
He is.
You think he is?
He gives up
But
81% at the rim, which leads the
He's
league.
still
Is that effort?
and I'm not saying Jokic is a great.
And also, I think he banks on them missing so he could get rebounds.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a great defensive player.
Yeah.
But I don't see him getting.
You've
exposed.
also seen him lock in.
No, but he's also a 7-footer too. So even if you're awful,
You have seen him get exposed, though. The Warriors had their
no, I'm
number
not saying he
for
hasn't
years.
been exposed. I've seen him look bad before. The year in 2020 when the Lakers
Yeah.
won the championship, they made him not look so good. He looked bad.
Mm.
Just is he Luka bad on defense? I don't think he is.
Nobody. I don't know if
Just for the fact that he rebounds.
great. I don't know of any good players.
And let's say this
bad
too.
on defense.
Yeah. Everybody, you just can't talk defense. Who in the NBA is more fun to play with
Than Jokic.
than Jokic? He gets everybody
Yeah.
in the game. Even if he gets dunked on or he gets up a rebound, if you're open, he'll pass you the ball. Luka doesn't play the game that way. He don't pass the ball to everybody. He's dribbling the ball the whole game.
That's something else I want to highlight about
he's
the
getting the ball.
Mavericks.
He's getting everybody involved.
That's something else I want to highlight about the Mavericks. Them playing the Rockets in AD's first game back, everyone played well. And even in the game without AD, the Mavericks played Celtics. Dinwiddie had 15, 17 points. Dante Exum hit a couple corner threes. And these are players that Luka wouldn't give the ball to unless it's just catch and shoot strictly. Dinwiddie was saucing up out there, and he was killing it. And PJ Washington's been playing great. Gaffer's been on another level. I really like the Mavericks team. I think their depth has shown when they have time to handle the ball a little bit rather than the Luka style of the ball that we just said.
Jokic pulled Westbrook, like he threw him a life raft. He was down there with the Titanic, and he pulled him off the bottom of the ocean. And now Westbrook, I mean, it's fun to watch him play. That's amazing to say. There's not a lot of guys you can do that in the NBA with.
Mm-hmm.
He saved his career.
He did.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. You can't make it about conditioning. You can't make it about availability. You can't make it about the future. You can't make it how you don't trust Luka and then trade for AD. If you make that same trade for Giannis, for Bam, a defensive player that's available, you have a case. But you cannot do that for street clothes.
I agree with you, Bill.
That's awesome.
It's very symbolic. You trade for him, and the guy in the game gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and he's going to be out another month. He's missing.
He's not coming back right away. He's out.
That was my biggest knock on the trade.
I mean, it's just brutal. Like, it's like
that was my other knock on the trade that was my knock. He didn't call any other teams. There's one mystery team Nico Harrison called that we don't know of yet, but he didn't ask around or shop him. But granted, he didn't want to because he didn't want to get leaked.
Exactly.
But it's also ballsy to call the Lakers up, knowing Rich Paul owns. Look, I shouldn't say own. LeBron kind of owns him, but the Rich Paul connection is kind of ballsy to call the Lakers for AD when Rich Paul has his hands and everything. How did that not get leaked? Which is kind of crazy. But it is wild that he couldn't Are the Thunder gonna give up Shea for Luka?
It's.
no,
I feel like that's different though. I feel like
I'm just as a broad
what
example
other-
for how
that's a
he
more
makes
fair
that out.
trade, though.
what other
He's
franchise?
both younger.
What other franchise meant as much as Luka did to the Mavs.
Probably Giannis has to the Bucks. I mean,
Yeah.
Shea to the Thunder.
See, I don't think Shea means as much to OKC
I
as
don't,
Luka did
I
to
don't
the
think
Mavs.
any player means anything to the Thunder because if they haven't shown you this, they can literally lose Durant,
Yeah.
Westbrook,
Harden.
I mean, they just get rid of guys and you're like, how are they ever going to replace them? Well, they didn't draft Shea. They made a trade for him,
Yeah.
but they draft so well.
But you know what? They saw the potential in Shea when he was with LA,
and they made a trade for him.
And they
Okay,
made-
so
yeah.
They made a trade.
Jokic
They
Nuggets
identify
as
young
well.
talent.
Yes.
So I agree. I don't think they're tied to anybody. I mean, obviously they love SGA. They want to keep him. They want to make him happy. But if he got hurt, I think they would try to move on as quickly as possible. And I wouldn't doubt him. I think
Yeah.
they could find somebody.
I've never seen a team refund season ticket holders because of how upset and outraged they are. I've never seen protests where they brought a literal casket to the front of the arena. Like, this is on a level that we have never seen.
I've never
before.
seen the GM
Well,
order security
the
because
Mavs-
he's getting death
Getting
threats.
death threats.
The Mavs GM could have gotten more. He blew that.
It's
But he didn't
speaking
want
of-
more. He
just
circled who
wanted
he
80.
wanted.
I know.
No, he circled who he wanted and only called the team that had the person he wanted. So that's a level of incompetence that's not even like.
So for a defensive aspect, could he have called the Bucks and say, "Hey, I want Giannis"?
Yes.
I think so, right?
And Giannis is probably not going to be a Buck in the next 12 to 18 months. I'm sorry. Spoiler
And
alert.
the Bucks
He's
probably
not
would-
staying there.
The Bucks would have said yeah to Luka
Where'd
as
you go,
well.
Miami?
I think Brooklyn.
Who's the backup four for
I don't know, he just
Milwaukee
doesn't
right
care.
now?
Yeah.
Portis.
Ugh. Bobby, did you?
See, but I don't know if you make that
I
even.
mean, Portis is a super six man on the team.
You don't like Bobby?
I like
he's-
Bobby, but I don't know if he's not a starter like that.
He's a very inefficient player.
He's
he
not
plays
starter
like a guard.
that.
He's 6'10".
He has
He does
moments
play
all
like
the
a guard.
time.
I like Bobby.
I like him too.
I like Bobby.
He's an old school. He reminds me like Rodney
he has
Rogers.
moments. Oh shit. He
He's
does.
like a Rodney Rogers type. Like he's not good, like you said, but he's not efficient. But he can make big shots. He won a championship on the team, right, as a role
Yeah.
player. So you can't count him out.
Bill, what trades did you see this deadline that might push the needle of something you want
Well,
to
I
highlight?
think all the trades that would have pushed the needle didn't happen. We could start with the Mark Williams trade to LA because you can't go into a playoff
That got
series.
rescinded, didn't it?
Yeah,
It
Yeah,
did.
that's
We
what I'm
did.
saying. It's all
Yeah.
the trades
That's-
that didn't happen.
we should announce that too. The Mark
It
Williams.
happened today.
Mark Williams going to the Lakers for Kennett. That trade's been rescinded, which I think it's not as big as obviously Luka, but for their Lakers trying to make a championship, them not having Mark Williams is huge.
It takes away.
It
It, takes
hurts
them
them
out of the
tremendously.
contention this year.
They don't have a center now, really.
You
So-
can't start a playoff series with Jackson Hayes.
Something about that trade. It's crazy that they technically gave up more draft capital for Mark Williams than they did for Luka.
Which is actually great for the Lakers in the long run because they probably weren't going to win a championship this year. And now this summer they have all these expiring contracts and they still have picks to trade. They can get a legit third player.
How do you feel if you're Kennett though? You come back
That's
to the team.
that's kind of what I was thinking.
I'd be doing fucking cartwheels. You want to play in Charlotte?
I'd be begging him to come back.
yeah,
to LA. Yeah.
come on. A white boy in
Instead of
LA,
Siberia
he was
or
living the life.
Charlotte. What do you think of that? The rescinding London?
I mean, it's tough for the Lakers. You know, I'm not a Lakers fan, but you know,
It's what they needed, right?
it's what they needed.
Is
And
there anybody else they can get?
Their roster's full. They can't sign anybody.
Can they sign like Dwight Howard from China? If
no,
have
they
to
don't have
cut
any
somebody?
space.
They have to cut somebody, but then even if they do, they still have to pay that salary,
So
and
they're
they
done.
can't go over. They can't do anything.
If this happened a few days prior to the trade deadline, like it's still possible. But since it's happened after, Lakers are kind of fucked, honestly. And I still think they'll be in a playoff run, but they're not making the finals. They won't get out the first round. I shouldn't say that because you can never really count out Luka and LeBron to a certain extent. But
What-
the West is,
That's
I
kind of
wouldn't
what
stack.
count. You can't totally count.
yeah, you can't.
that's
count
kind of
them
what
out.
I was gonna say. Like nobody's banking on LA. They're not the favorites. They're not top 3 or 5 out of the West to make it to the finals. But I tell you what, if for whatever reason they get to the finals and
Oh,
if
if they make
somehow they win, Nico should just stay in his office from here
kill
on out
himself.
and just
Yeah, he's
never
still-
and never
Let me ask
show
you
his
this.
face ever again.
Do you think LeBron and Luca can play together? Because nobody's talking about that really.
That's the
I
first
think
thing
that's a problem.
That's the first thing that
Essentially.
came to my mind because neither one of them are great
Secondary
on
ball
defense.
handlers.
What was that?
Neither of them are secondary ball handlers. Both of them want to be ball dominant.
Yeah, they're very ball dominant. I'm not a big fan of LeBron off the ball. He'll do his sporadic cuts here and there to get open, and
But he's not a great spot shooter.
no, like
He's a great decoy though.
he's a great decoy, but is he going to be a decoy when Luka's on the floor? Like who's the main person going to who's the main defender going to guard?
I mean, LeBron already half-assed it on defense, so like if he can do a lesser role on offense, and if he's cool accepting that, it's gonna work
Do
really
you
well.
think LeBron is cool accepting a lesser offensive role and put more energy on defense?
Yeah.
That's the
I
million
don't
dollar
think so.
question. I think at 40 years
I don't
old, he
think
doesn't
so.
have a choice.
I don't.
I think for years he's been trying to hand the
I would
torch
say this-
and not be the number one option. I think he's been trying with
I think
AD,
he's
and
been
it
I
hasn't
would
saying
sit
happened.
that.
LeBron down and say, LeBron, do you want to win another championship? This is what you have to do.
Who tells him that?
Rich, that's his boy.
I don't think
Rich
anybody's
can't
politics.
tell
On the
him that.
team,
Him
On
and
the
Redick
team,
are tight. Like
the
they
one
had
guy I would say
podcasts
is
together.
JJ Redick.
Yeah,
Do you,
and their defense has been clicking. Redick's got them buying in.
Reddick has.
I mean, LeBron got Redick the job, so
Yes.
But
it's like
they look
I
less,
mean, there's no doubt, right, Bill? I mean,
they looked rough the past few months, but the last I'd say month, maybe 3-4 weeks,
Yeah.
Reddick's got the
Yeah,
locker room to
they're
buy
a
in.
they're
defensive.
playing
Hayes, as bad as Hayes is, he's been playing well.
Their identity is defense now.
Austin Reeves playing out of his mind.
He's playing great.
Armban Reeves.
Now,
Yeah,
honestly,
15.
you guys honestly think that LeBron is okay accepting a lesser role and expanding more energy on defense?
I would say yeah.
I'd say it's not impossible.
Something I actually wanted to bring up, it's kind of similar to that. Does LeBron think Luka's better than him?
And that's my point.
So
That's
a
exactly my
secondary
point. Do you
role,
think he's willing to do that? They play a similar enough
Yeah.
position to do.
like is LeBron looking at Luka
And see,
like,
here's the
hey,
problem.
we average the same stats, but I'm 15 years older than you.
But here's the
Right.
problem, though. LeBron's in perfect condition. He doesn't eat like crap. He doesn't this guy spends millions of dollars on his body, and Luka's like eating in and out.
Mhm.
How are they even going to relate to each other?
That's what I mean. Like
LeBron has praised Luka in the past, though, and I know he has.
But now he's
respect for him.
living with him. He moved in. It's different now.
they're roommates.
Yeah, I mean they're living.
I think
they're in the same
LeBron's
house.
gonna take him under the wing, sort of thing. I think he wanted to pass the torch to somebody. I think he's gonna be like, hey, if you want to be great, this is what you got to do. And I think Luka could prove it. I mean, Luka.
I think Luka can prove it, but the reason why I think it worked with AD is because they played two separate positions.
I also think AD is kind of.
AD's not going to
Laid
be
back.
the ball handler.
AD's more submissive too.
He's very
That, but
submissive. He's laid back.
But I think LeBron was willing to give the keys to AD.
AD's one of those guys. You just tell him what to do and he'll do it. John Calipari won a national championship by not letting him leave the paint.
Yeah.
He literally said, "You just get every rebound, you block every shot, and you dunk on everybody, and we'll win the national championship." And
And
that's
they
what
won.
he did.
I mean, granted,
And now he doesn't even play. I mean,
but granted, the reason that works is because that Kentucky team was stacked.
no, I know, but I'm saying his piece was Anthony Davis. I'm saying the way Anthony Davis won is totally different than how he kind of plays in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like how he came into the league with New Orleans, he was hitting threes. Now he does play down. He still always had something at the basket.
I
but
feel like that's a lot of players who come out of college though as a great superstar. You have to accept the role that you're given.
Also,
in the
as a
NBA.
big in college, they don't really let you shoot too many threes like that.
But I'm just saying
Yeah.
about Davis. I think he's easy to coach. I think you just tell him what to do, he does it. That's all I'm
Yeah,
trying to
he's
say.
a
He can
submissive
literally
guy.
do
Yeah, he's a
whatever you need
submissive
him
guy.
to do on the court. He can do it.
That's what we.
I mean, LeBron played with Wade, and those first couple years in Miami, Wade was the more dominant one until LeBron kind of learned how to win. And
But Wade had LeBron's respect because he already won a title.
I mean,
Wade already had a
Yeah.
championship at that point.
That's exactly
LeBron
my
didn't
point.
have
Like
one.
I think LeBron is willing to hand it over or play the lesser role to someone he respects and thinks like, all right, I have something to learn from you. What does LeBron have to learn from Luka? Like, I don't think he's willing to accept that lesser
I don't
role.
think he wants to do any of that. I think he wants to mentor him and put him under, like, hey, I'm going to show you how to be a leader.
So
and,
you're saying you think
and hey,
you
I'm
think
gonna
he's
let-
going
I'm
to
gonna
accept
give
the
you
D Wade
keys.
role and have Luka do
Yeah.
the LeBron role?
I see it like that. And something we talked about when the trade broke down is this the best teammate LeBron's ever had?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you said Wade. You also
Yeah.
said Wade.
but it's close. Like he gets an MVP, and Luka's gonna get an MVP. He's gonna
It's close.
pass
though.
Wade.
Yeah.
It's not ridiculous.
Yeah.
I would take Wade though.
Overall, I would say no. Offensively, I would say Luka.
Offensively, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
You could argue Luka's the best offensive player
Because
of all
Wade
time.
wasn't
Yeah.
even a 3-point threat. Luka can shoot from
No.
anywhere on the court.
But he also, at the
But
same
Wade
time,
was a dog on
Wade,
defense.
yeah, he was faster. He
Wade was a great
played his
player.
heart out. Like, I never look at Luka and be like, wow, that dude's giving it his all.
Yeah.
I never watch him and be like,
No.
he's giving it his all out there. He's working his ass off.
So does that mean he is better because he's half-assing it and he's also been a great
offensively.
Yeah.
But
His offense is so good it makes up for all of his flaws.
Yeah. John, what trades have happened that you want to highlight?
I think the trade for me I liked the most was seeing Fox go to the Spurs.
Yeah.
I think the Spurs have done a good job with this. They got Wemby, Chris Paul. I think Wemby's obviously. I think
does
Chris
Chris Paul go to the bench now?
Well,
No, they're
They
starting
play them together.
I'm just saying long
It's
term.
been Paul, Fox, Vassell, Wemby, and then Barnes at the 4.
I'm just saying for the Spurs, they're finally putting at least all-star level guys around him. I think that's a big deal.
It kind of shows how you're supposed to build a team. Like the Mavericks didn't really put the proper team around Luka for years. I wonder if Luka will even stuck around after the 2 years.
Yeah,
Almost.
I think Hunter going to the Cavs is possibly big. I personally think the Luka AD trade is overrated. I think 2 injured players got traded for each other. When they do play, they all are all world. I'm not going to deny that, but they miss a lot of games. I don't. Nothing's guaranteed with any of them, so I think you kind of just have to wait and see. I would say this just from a number standpoint: the Lakers traded a guy 32 for Luka's 25. Is 80 30?
31.
So just from that standpoint, but I don't think it guarantees Luka's going to be there until he's 33, 34 carrying the franchise either, unless he changes his body.
Will the Lakers, or do you guys think can the Lakers win a championship in these next handful of years with Luka, or in Luka's time with the Lakers in general?
100%.
Yeah.
If they get
You
it
think
big,
so?
yeah.
They're going to get somebody. It's not going to be this year, obviously, but they're going to get somebody this summer, and it's the Lakers. They just fail upwards. Every mistake they make gets erased by the next cycle.
Yeah, no, they're like I was expecting them to. With Williams, I wasn't going to say they were going to win the championship if they got Mark Williams, but I definitely put them in that, like, if they're not a contender, they're right there.
As much as you're highlighting Williams, and obviously the trade got rescinded, but he only played 80 games combined in the last 3 years.
I'm just assuming him
And
playing
clearly
healthy.
the Lakers knew that trading for him, and they still got scared from the physical. So there's something like this guy might not play
clearly he's got
next 2 years. Like that's how bad that
Trust
was.
those Duke guys, man.
London, do you think Luka could win a championship with the Lakers in the next handful of years or so?
Yeah. I mean, it's for me. I feel like you can never count out LeBron.
Well, let's take Braun out because he might retire in the next 2 years. So
I mean,
Luka
that would be the
whatever
time frame that Luka's there.
Well, I think Luka's going to re-sign. So you
Okay.
think LeBron's going to get another championship?
I think he could. I won't count him out. I won't count him out. He plays hard. He's smart. Obviously his athleticism and everything is going down over the last couple of years. He's getting old. Dude's fucking 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's shit's gonna happen. Father Time is undefeated.
Even though it's taken a while for LeBron.
It's longer than
it's
anybody
undefeated.
else.
But it's undefeated. Like it's going to catch up with him. If he retires and Luka's there, yeah. I mean, I think they can win whether LeBron's there or not. I think Luka has a chance to win a championship. Now, you could say the same thing if Luka was in Dallas. He has the potential to win a championship. I think it just comes down to Luka has to
Buy in.
I don't even want to say buy in. He just has to give effort on defense. Like I think that's really all it is. I mean, the Lakers have pieces around them to play very well and win, but it really just comes down to Luka defensively, because just like we've seen, if they see someone that they can go after, they're going to pick and have them come up and just attack them every play, as they should.
Yeah.
One thing for Luka, I think him going to the Lakers, he's going to see it's different than playing for the Mavs. I don't think anybody on the Mavs really held him accountable. And it's not even the Lakers franchise.
I mean, Rick ran away. He didn't even want to try.
It's not even like the Lakers franchise may necessarily hold Luka accountable, but the fans, when you're
a different fan base.
When you're brought in and you're like, okay, we went from Kobe, now we have LeBron, now Luka, you would think the light would go on for Luka. Like, this is my opportunity. I'm playing for one of the most famous franchises in the history of sports, certainly basketball. He might be more serious and play defense and get in shape. It wouldn't shock me if that happened.
There's going to be a shame factor. I mean, he's the only player ever to get traded because they're fat.
Yeah.
And now he's in LA. He's in Hollywood.
Yeah.
All these beautiful people, all these actresses and actors.
It's not going to shock me if he looks the best he's ever looked in his life.
Get on that Ozempic.
Do you think he cares like that, though? I don't think Luka gives a shit.
I think when you're in LA, though, I don't think you can escape it.
Yeah, it's the most superficial place on earth. And now he's going to have to. It really is. So he's going to, get on the Kardashians, whichever one's available. He's gonna,
and if he does that, then I take my Luka championship pick away. He's not winning shit if he gets with the.
So
I agree.
My own question. I actually think Luka is damn near guaranteed to win a championship with the Lakers. I don't know if it's going to be with the LeBron timeline, but the reason why I think he's damn near guaranteed is because we've seen every iteration of the Lakers when they get a superstar, they win from getting Wilt, from getting Magic, Kareem, they won. From getting Kobe and Shaq,
literally
they won.
50 years,
and then
60
Kobe
years.
and Powell, they won. Really, the only quote-unquote stars they got that they didn't win was 2013 with Nash and Howard.
But those guys were older.
Nash was older. Dwight was technically still in his prime, but he just got back surgery. But that was essentially the only iteration that you could argue with LeBron. That was the other iteration.
And they technically did win a championship with Dwight.
True. 10 years later, us
for the part 2.
7 years later or so. Some other trades I want to highlight, not because I think it's a needle mover, but I want to highlight Kuzma going to the Bucks because I don't like Kuzma and I wanted to see him brought away in Washington. But the reason why I want to highlight that is because I thought it was a great trade for Washington, not only to get off the Kuzma money, but to help the young players develop. You got Middleton over there. Middleton's on his last leg, but I think he's going to help the young players like Keyshawn George, Bilal Coulibaly. I like their young core over there. They also got Marcus Smart. So that's something doesn't help them right now because they're dogs. They're the worst team in the league. But they need some type of mentorship program over there because their guys clearly don't know what they're doing. Look at what it did to the Rockets and the Pistons getting some veterans in there, a decent coach, and a year of improving. Both those teams have improved.
Who are the guys that the Pistons got in these trades?
They got Schroeder and they got Lindy Waters, but he's not going to play. But yeah, Schroeder, he played today and he looked good. He let Cade play off the ball a little bit. Cade got a high post touch and he operated out there on a high pick roll from that angle and he had a nice mid range. I like what Schroeder provides for the team actually, even though he said the trade deadline is like slavery, but it looks like he's going to be okay and playing on the Pistons with Cade and stuff.
A lot better in Detroit than playing in Utah, so he's got to be happy.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about the biggest trade, Jimmy Butler.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Let's start with
the biggest trade.
Since you
he did have the most trade.
I mean, it was the most talked about before.
I totally forgot.
Most meaningless.
I'm kind of glad the Luka trade happened because it shut the fucking Jimmy Butler and the Heat scandal up. I was tired of hearing that day by day, week by week. So I'm glad that Luka trade happened because it did shut it up for at least a few days because him going to the Warriors, he shot it down. So I thought it was kind of a dead mission. But Billy, since you brought it up, how do you think the Warriors are going to do? What happens with the Heat and the Warriors? So
all the times we called Pat Riley washed, made the jokes that he was asleep, like, oh, yeah, you couldn't make a trade. It's past his bedtime, all that stuff. Once the sun goes down, you can't really get in touch with Pat Riley. I was really impressed with Miami's haul. They got enough assets. They got enough contracts that even if it doesn't help them this year, which I actually think it will, they'll be a 4 or 5 seed in the East because Wiggins is good. He's a perfect fit to go with Bam and Hero, but it's also just the future flexibility. They're going to get a big fish this summer. I'm going to bet on it's Durant, but it could be anybody. They can be in the Giannis sweepstakes. Any superstar that becomes available, they have the assets. They're in the city that the players want to play in. Yeah. There's no state tax, and it's just a great reset to get Butler out, and it's going to be addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
Besides LA, Miami's 1A of free agent destination. Pat Riley, he's like Al Pacino on any given Sunday. As soon as you think he's done, he finds a way to it was a great move for him. Like Billy just said, they got rid of all the bad energy,
to make that
bad
trade
vibe,
with no leverage at
money.
all. No leverage at all.
It was really,
and they got a decent haul for sure.
And they got Wiggins, who's you can't really trust Wiggins. Sometimes he looks amazing, sometimes he doesn't. But who knows? Maybe he could play better in Miami with a new.
It might be his second win, essentially. I mean, really his third win.
Yeah. How old is Wiggins?
He's got to be 30.
I think he's
So he
28,
still has something
29.
left. Yeah, he's a young guy.
He won an NBA Finals. Like
played
he
in
literally
Kansas with Embiid.
outplayed Jason Tatum in the NBA Finals and
Yeah.
swung that series. On
Yeah,
the
he's an
Warriors,
all-star. Yeah.
the Warriors standpoint, it's really funny because they tried to get everybody. They tried to get LeBron. They tried to get Durant, and they're like the guy at the bar at 2 a.m. and all the other options were
when
gone.
the lights turn on.
And then there's a chick at the bar, and it's like, and that chick was Jimmy Butler for them.
Jesus.
London.
It's a great chick.
It's a good time, but you're not going to call her the next day.
What happens with the Warriors,
I
London?
think the biggest thing that doesn't get talked about is what changed Jimmy's mind. Because it's not like the Heat were never really out of the Jimmy sweepstakes until Jimmy said, "I'm not re-signing with you," and that was the only.
I thought it was
reason.
because Pat said he didn't deserve the max, and I think it started really in the playoffs. He was like, players that don't suit up for us shouldn't fucking talk.
No. What I'm
I
talking
think it
about
started-
when the trade talks started happening, they were in the Heat and Golden State were in talks, but then it got shut down because Jimmy said, "I'm not going to re-sign with Golden
X, Y, and
State."
Z team.
Yeah.
But we know why. They weren't going to offer him the max, and then they did once he got there. So
What was it? It was a 2-year,
120.
131.
Oh,
102 million, 51 million a year.
But
it was 102.
but it's not the,
120,
but it's not
I
the
think it was
full max.
121.
yeah.
Okay.
It's-
I
it's
thought
not-
I
Yeah,
saw
it was
one.
like
Yeah, I think it
60.
was, I think it was like 121.
Even
But it's
crazier.
not the full max. It's not 4 years, which I think is what he demanded from the Heat. I think if he only wanted 2 years, I think the Heat would have.
How old is he?
He's
30,
35.
Yeah.
So he wanted a full max to
be
39.
39.
That's
Give
what
him
he.
that deal.
I believe that's what he
Crazy.
originally wanted, and I think obviously he said no to the Warriors because the Warriors probably said no to that 4-year. But then they settled on the middle ground. Hey, we'll pay you the max just for 2 years. You're on the same time frame as Curry. You don't want to be here after Curry. I think that's what they sold him on.
Yeah.
You highlighted that you think it's a bad trade. I'm not crazy about Jimmy Butler either, but he solves the problem. I believe the Warriors are last in free throws attempted. They do not have any paint touches. Kuminga does what he can, but he's also been hurt, and you also can't trust him. Jimmy solves a lot of issues from secondary ball handling, from Curry's best off ball. Jimmy Butler could contribute on that aspect.
But any of the other options that
Did they
were
keep Buddy
available,
Hield?
Healed, yes.
Yeah, they did.
But
Okay.
Heald's fallen off of a cliff,
Yeah.
three-point
Dude,
shooting wise.
he played great his first
Like 20
2
games.
weeks or
that's
so,
what he always
He was on
does.
fire.
and then after that, it's just like, what happened to this dude?
Yeah. But Butler solves their
lost
problems
his
with
Jimmy.
what they needed. He gets 2 feet in the paint. He could kick out. I know they just played the Bulls, and the Bulls are shit, but he had a great game. I believe he had 25, 7, and 5.
He had a good game.
Are they more than a playing team?
I think they could jump. I don't know.
Who do they jump, though?
They could
Like-
get hot. The
Yeah,
West
I
is
don't-
tough. The West is tough.
I don't
I
think
know.
they're gonna make. I don't think it'll make any moves.
Essentially, now with the Blazers being on a win streak, they're
First
like
of all, dog,
12 deep
Don't-
in the West.
don't say the Blazers are.
The
no
Blazers have a better
competition.
record than the Spurs, guys. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people realize that.
They do, but
Oh,
who
I'm
do you
not-
trust more?
Obviously, I don't like the Blazers either, but now that they're winning games, I'm not saying it's going to be
Chauncey's got
sustainable.
him going.
He's got them going.
Saved his job.
Wow.
100%.
Speaking of the Blazers, something I want to highlight. Why I know they started winning games, but that's a team that didn't do anything at the trade deadline. They have so many contracts and players that they can move. Like I thought Rob Williams was done. I thought they could move Jeremy Grant if for something. I thought Anthony Simons was possible to go to like the Magic. The Magic needed ball handling and a point guard play. Are there any teams or players that you're shocked that didn't get moved, guys? Billy, start with you.
I thought the Thunder really were asleep at the wheel, and they aren't serious about winning a championship because they should have been aggressive and they should have got 3-point shooting. And Cam Johnson was just sitting there for anybody to go get.
Yeah,
And they could have gave up one of their million
Oh,
picks.
they
to get
have
him.
they have any picks that you want, and they just
it kind of seems like the Nets were holding out on the Thunder offering that because what they were asking for Cam, no other team could really offer that. John, are there any teams or players you're shocked didn't get moved or buy in?
I mean, once Luka went, that I don't feel like anything else was shocking after that. It just
No, but are you shocked any teams didn't make moves?
I thought the Pistons might add somebody. I'm kind of glad they didn't. I didn't want them to add a Beal or an Ingram, kind of one of these guys that may not fit in and take the ball out of Cade's hand. So I'm kind of happy they didn't do a dumb trade like that. I'm kind of happy they just stayed pat.
They did kind of get what they needed with secondary ball handling with Schroeder, and that was just a
they
dump
did,
off trade.
Yeah, a
So
lesser
it
trade.
worked out.
I mean, but I'm talking like
A
major
big trade,
piece,
yeah.
nothing like that. So I was happy with that.
London, are there any players or teams?
I think the Suns. I'm kind of surprised nothing happened there. I mean, obviously
Durant.
that trio of Booker, Beal, and Durant is just
Never worked out.
The ceiling's capped.
Yeah, and the ceiling wasn't
Never
First
very
round
high
at
to
best.
begin with.
Never
So
fit. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see that working before the trade happened. So I'm not surprised that it's kind of working out the way it did. But I'm kind of surprised that nobody from the Suns kind of got shipped off
That is
for
surprising.
anything.
Not
because,
one of them moved. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Something I
that
was
is
shocked about.
surprising.
Speaking of the Suns, like I heard rumors of Durant going to the Warriors and Jimmy going to the Suns. What the fuck are the Suns thinking? Replacing? I get Kuminga will also been in that trade. I don't know if you saw the John. So the trade was essentially Durant going to the Warriors, and then the Suns getting Jimmy, Kuminga, and a pick, I believe.
Yeah.
But what does that do for them? I thought that was a kind of a nothing for nothing trade. But anyway, back to your Suns and
yeah,
what else?
I really don't understand what the Suns are doing. So they, I don't think they're serious about winning. And if they are, they're not showing it. So
Yeah, a team that I thought, like you said, Billy, is sleep at the wheel, and also gave up assets. The Grizzlies, they gave 2 first-round picks to get Marcus Smart. They gave up a pick to get rid of Marcus Smart. They gave up Jake LaRavia, which was the 9th, 8th man in the rotation, and they didn't solve the biggest issue, small forward. Like you just said, Cam Johnson's just waiting to be traded.
Cam Johnson's an underrated player. He deserves to be on a winning team.
Yeah.
Is that because he went to North Carolina?
Well, he could swing.
I mean, it helps, but he was. I mean, he was a big.
Funny.
He was a big piece of that Suns run when they went to when they made that playoff run.
Well, I was going to say about your Suns thing. It's almost you almost just think if the Suns just would have stayed pat with that team, would they just have been better off?
Yes.
I know Chris Paul was old, but just letting him fade off into retirement as opposed to just blowing it up and now you got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, they traded Paul for Beal. I mean, Beal essentially controlled the NBA for a month, and I think that's the best thing you could say that happened in his career.
Yeah.
He was able to control everything. The trade deadline was paused for a month because Beal was like, "Oh, I don't want to go there. Oh, I want to go there." Like this guy is determining where he goes, and this is why no trade clauses don't get handed out in the NBA. He's an average player. I shouldn't say average. Beal is good.
Beal put up great numbers in Washington, and I think if he had a good team around him, he'd be able to flourish. But he's not the number one option on a team.
Even
with
if he had a good team
Booker,
around him,
who's been there,
he wouldn't live up to his contract.
Durant.
See, I'm not going to say he wouldn't live up to his contract because Beal put up great numbers in Washington, but Washington was a shit team. Like there was no secondary pieces with Beal.
Yeah.
Now he's going to being the ultimate number one option in Washington to being the third option
to now being a bench player.
That's exactly what I mean. I think Beal is a very good player. He plays good offensively and defensively, but he went to a team where there was a player who it's basically his franchise in Booker, and Durant, who's arguably one of the best player in the league. So where does that leave Beal?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to, as much as you try to accept your role, it's wild to see your shots go from 20 shots a game to
10 to 13.
Yeah, if that many.
Yeah. But yeah, so the Grizzlies, I believe, fell asleep behind the wheel. I was disappointed that they didn't make any trades to improve their team this year. I essentially thought they were one, max, maybe 2 pieces away from really doing something out west. A team I did want to highlight for what they did. I liked Ingram with the Raptors. I know they have a surplus of wings, but Raptors aren't a free agent destination. And with these projected odds for the lottery, they could jump up and get Cooper. They could jump up and get Bailey or whoever you guys have in the top 1 to 4 range. I really like what the Raptors did. They're essentially pulling like a Kawhi type of thing. Like, we're going to buy in on you. We're going to essentially give you a contract because he's going to be a free agent this season. But I think Ingram's going to stay. I like that trade for them. And they got rid of Bruce Brown, which was just taking up space, dead money. And they didn't give up much to get Ingram. So I like that trade for the Raptors. Anything else you guys want to highlight about the trade deadline or what happens with the playoffs and the NBA Finals? Anything change at all?
No, I think we just got to kind of wait and see how the next few weeks play out after the dust settles from the trade deadline and circle back around and see what happens.
Cavs are already the 1 seed. They're probably going to maintain that for the rest of the season. It doesn't seem like the Celtics are doing too much this regular season, but they're obviously still the juggernauts out east, I believe. Billy, is there anyone else?
No, I mean, like Joe Mazzulla says, the season doesn't start till after the All-Star break, so we're going to see what these teams really are.
Yeah. I did like how there was kind of a reset for the NBA. The trade deadline kind of gets everyone hyped again, watching the games, seeing new players on new teams. I like that reset. Because we talked about first episode, essentially, the downfall of the NBA, and the trade deadline kind of gets everyone out their seats again. So that's something I look forward to. And I'm actually excited for the All-Star game coming up as well. I like how they did the format. I'm maybe not crazy about the format, but I like
What
how
is the format exactly?
It's essentially like a 4-team bracket of 8 players.
So like there'll be like a young team, there'll be a foreign team, there'll be a vet team, and then there'll be like
a team of the rookie sophomore game. So the rookie sophomore games are also mixed up, and whoever wins the rookie sophomore game the day prior is going to play, I don't know, one of the teams on Sunday.
It's very similar to like the Rising Stars as it was last year.
Yeah,
I guess hockey does something similar to this as well.
Okay, so they kind of got it from hockey.
Yeah.
I liked how they staged it to like, oh, this is a draft. Oh, Shaq's getting this guy. But then by the end of it, it's like, oh, those are all the foreign guys. Chuck so happened to get. He got Jokic, Giannis, and Shea.
But I do think Shaq messed up the script because he took somebody out of order, and then a couple of them got messed up.
I think he took Tatum, and Kennedy's like, oh, that's a young guy.
Yeah.
I wanted to get him. So I did think he screwed up because I think Mitchell was supposed to be on the old team.
Yeah, Mitchell shouldn't have been on the foreign team. But...
Yeah, Mitchell got it so happens on the foreign team. That's something I'm actually looking forward to.
because he is Dominican. That is foreign.
He's from New York, though.
He's the big bodega.
He's from New York.
It's Dominican.
In heritage, not from where he's from.
He played for the Dominican national team. That counts.
Yeah, he got dual citizenship. Cool.
A lot of people.
Do you call Joel Embiid French?
No, I call him African.
Yeah, but he plays for the French team.
That's because actually plays for the
Played
U.S.
for the U.S.
He
this year he did. That's fine.
He was supposed to play for the French team, and the French team
nah.
were mad at him.
Well, yeah, they got 8 centers over there.
Well, no, he just wanted to win a cheap gold medal because that's the only way he can win.
Yeah, you didn't have to flop. But anyway, the All-Star game, we could talk about that another time. But to wind it up, we're the Club Rats. I'm Jesiah.
Billy.
John.
And London.
We'll see you guys next week. Remember to like, subscribe, comment. Thanks.